What's up, New Hope family? Welcome to the Grow Podcast. My name is David. With me, as always, is Pastor Mark. We're here to help you take a next step in your relationship with Jesus. I'm so glad you're here. Hello, and welcome to episode 139 of the Grow Podcast. Pastor Mark, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I don't know if you, probably not, but in the comments a few episodes ago, we had somebody comment that it's very important to them that we list the number of the episode at the beginning.
Good. Let's list the number. Which one is it?
This is 139.
139.
After
I
you're
am so ready.
Ranting and raving about it, why does it matter? And obviously they were being sarcastic, but I'm sticking with it, and it is the most important part of the podcast. And I think I have a system now to help me remember it. So we're at 139. Although right now, Pastor Mark, I'm not feeling very well, so I don't know what's going on right now. I have something coming on pretty strong, which I'm not a fan of. Do you have any? I was going to ask ancient remedies, but that's too mean. Do you have any? Do you have any? Home remedies for colds? Anything that you always did growing up?
I have absolutely nothing. No, you just endure it and get past it.
My mom is a firm believer that chicken noodle soup just cures everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the doctor before my name is not the kind that helps people. No,
not the kind that helps people.
No,
in
just
any way,
a degree.
or just with
so
illness?
It doesn't do any good when you got a cold to tell you what to do.
Well, that's disappointing. I was hoping for some sort of like, the leaves from this plant and you grind them up and make a tea out of it.
Yeah.
And you got nothing for me. Are you now? It's like a common joke that men, when we get sick, are very needy and useless.
Am not at all. In fact, if I am sick, stay away. Do not be asking me what I need. Do not be checking on me. Just stay away. Yeah, I just become a hermit when I get sick, and I am not needy. I don't want somebody taking care of me.
But are you useless, or do you?
I am useless.
Okay, so you have the useless part.
I do
just
have
not
that
the
part down. Yep. Just put me in a room by myself and stay away.
I'm okay with that. As long as what I didn't want to hear is you were like, no, I'm actually super productive when I'm sick, and I just power through and I take care of everybody else. No, okay.
No.
So you're still useless. You just don't want the help.
That's
Was
right.
that message for me or for your wife, Paula, who might be listening back at home?
My wife is the one that takes care of everybody, and she is the one that powers through. She can be sick, and the more sick she is, even if I am not at all, then she's worried about me.
Yeah.
Because she's sick, so therefore I don't want you to get this, and are you all right, and are you okay? And it's constantly asking me, and it's like, I'm not the one that is sick. You're the one that needs to go to bed.
Joanna's much better than me in that way as well. You just feel useless, but you're like, I kind of nailed it marrying this gal.
Yep. Yeah, we both did well, didn't we?
We did. We really did. I'm very proud of the two of us. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe next podcast we'll touch on more reasons why our wives should have married someone else. But for now, let's jump into the message from the weekend. We're still in our series, Guided. I know a lot of you have been really appreciating this series. I have myself. And if you've missed any of it, you can always go and check those out on our website. What is our website? I almost said YouTube, but I'm going to get to that in a second. Our website is newhopehere.com.
And you were actually going to ask me.
I know. I looked over for help, and I was like, I'm not getting any help over there. This might be the worst podcast of all time. It might be the best. I really don't know. I'm doing my best, everybody. I promise. Okay. Newhopehere.com. You can find the weekend teaching from our Williston campus there, or you can go to youtube.com/newhopehere, where you can find our online service, which has the same message, just for our online campus. So check that out if you have not done that yet. Very much encourage you to be joining us on the weekends at one of our gatherings or on our online campus if you're not near Williston or Tioga. It's been a really good series. you called it guided.
Yes.
And everything's been about guidance so far. And then this week you were like, now I'm going to slam literally the door in your face and talk about when God closes door. It's all, we're going to be guided by the word and guided by the Spirit. And do you really want to be guided? Well, he's going to close doors in your face.
Now comes the negative part of guiding, which we don't like, but is just as important, maybe even more important than the positive guidance of go this way. Is like, nope, don't go this way.
You could have started with this, like I was feeling good. I was like, all right, guided by the word, I need to do this.
I kind of wanted people to come back and listen to the next one. So hopefully
get us invested in the series, and then you mix this one in, in the middle end. Okay, okay, I gotcha. Well, you preached on when God closes doors. We're in Acts 16, verses 6 through 10 was the main scripture you were teaching out of. Just speaking of closed doors, I feel like they can be extra frustrating when it feels like God has opened that door in the first place, right? For a door to be closed, there has to be a door already, right? So, okay, I feel like there's this open door and I'm heading towards it, and then he slams it in my face and I break my nose on it because I'm headed full steam at the door while it slams. And it just adds that extra frustration when I'm like, I don't feel like I provided that door. I had that experience a few years back where there was a job that came up and it had nothing to do with me at all. I wasn't seeking a job. I wasn't applying for jobs. I was sought out. And, it got to the point where it was, okay, like now I'm excited. There's this open door that I wasn't even aware that there was a door. I was just headed where I thought I was going. And God clearly brought this door to me. And I got right up to the door, and then it was slammed in my face. And I was like, what was that? You could have just not shown me that this door existed at all.
Right.
What's the deal in those kind of situations? Because it's very frustrating.
And that was Paul's situation. He was called to go to the Gentiles. So he's going to the Gentiles, and God keeps saying, nope, not that one. Nope, not this one. And he does not give him a clear direction until after he has closed a couple of doors on him.
Yeah.
But why?
Why? What was the, I'm sure I learned something from it. But
and we joke about that, but that is definitely part of it, is there is a growth period.
For sure.
And it may not because you learned something by that door being closed. It may be something you needed to learn in the process of getting there.
Yep.
It's not the door closed like, okay, what lesson am I supposed to learn from the fact that I just got hit in the face with the door? It's, am I maturing along the way? Can I trust God to be guiding me and directing me? Because there may be things that by going towards that door that I learn along the way.
Sure. And which might help me when he has the open he has the open door, but I wasn't ready to go through that yet, and so he developed me in that process. Doesn't mean I like it, though.
No, don't like it. And that's the thing. You don't have to like it.
Yeah.
It's not like you're supposed to go, oh, good, isn't this wonderful? No, there are things that just plain hurt. You get a door slammed in your face. I'm thinking of somebody searching for a job.
Yeah.
And they think this is what I'm supposed to do, and I went to college for this, or got trained for this, or just believe it's where God wants me. And I get a no, and I get a no, and I get a no, and it's like, why try? That's not a fun place to be. It's difficult to go through. And it's hard to just keep trusting the Lord that, okay, I'm supposed to continue down this path until the right door opens.
Well, I'm going to skip ahead to a question I had towards your conclusion because it's right in line with what you're talking about. How do I develop that trust to believe that these closed doors are for my good? Like, I can believe them in theory, right? It's really, I believe in the Bible, and therefore God closing a door. But in the moment, it's really difficult then to say, okay, you closed that one, and I didn't lose any trust in you. Because there's times where you're like, man, you led me right up to it and closed it. How can I trust you that the next one's not going to be the same thing? Like, I might just, next time it's open, I'm just going to sit back because you're just going to close that one in my face too.
Well, as ridiculous as this might sound, getting old really helps. Because you've lived through these things. How many times that I can look back in my history and say, wow, I thought this was the direction to go, and God closed that door, and man, where I am today is because he closed that door. Yeah. In fact, the most painful closed doors that I've gone through in my life have been ones that led to the most productive, the most joyful. And because I've lived through those things, I can look back and say, yeah, he did it this time, he did it this time. And I've got several of these that I can point back to and say, God was faithful in that. Yeah. If I was 20 years old, I wouldn't have those experiences to be able to fall back on. And so hopefully a 20-year-old is looking to somebody that's 70 and saying, how does this work? And hearing their stories might be of an encouragement to them. But it's not an automatic thing that just happens. It's something that you have to learn along the way and trust him.
Would you say that's instinctual for you now as you are closer to that 70 age than the 20 age you were
listing? I think it's instinctual until I don't like it. And then, then it's just, I'll say, okay, this isn't working now. This was all great. But when, wow, this one just really does not feel good. Then, then you're human and you just go right back to, this just isn't right at all.
Because I find that exact experience of being able to look back on times where God closed the door and then followed it up with an incredible open door later on or shortly thereafter or whatever helps me, but it's not my first instinct. The most painful closed door I ever had was followed with the most incredible open door I ever, career-wise at least. I had a direction I was headed and doors had been open and I thought that's where I was going, and then a really, really painful, frustrating closed door led to when we moved to Oklahoma and I won 2 national championships as a college assistant coach, and it was incredible. Frustration and hurt and almost questioning God, I guess.
And I do think with age it is more instinctual, but not completely.
Yeah. Am I wrong to, I don't want to say question God, because it's not that I don't believe that he has a better door for me, but am I allowed to be frustrated with him? To be like, what are you doing?
Oh, absolutely.
Good.
I think that is absolutely true. In fact, today I read through about the first third of the book of Job. And he holds on to his integrity in all of that. And I always had the idea that he holds on to the fact that I've been righteous, I've been doing the right thing, I'm all this stuff. And reading it through this time is like, wait a minute, that's not what he was holding on to. He was holding on the fact that he was not going to curse God, that he still believed in who God was, but all the way through Job, he is questioning God. He is challenging God. He's saying, why? And he's not happy with God at all. But his integrity that he holds on to is, I will not curse God. I will still trust him. And so I think that's where we are in the same kind of situation that, I can challenge, I can get upset, I can holler at him, I can express all the negative feelings that I have. But when it comes down to it, it's like, but not my will, Lord. Yeah. I still trust you, and I know you've got my best intentions in mind.
Yeah.
So.
Those are the moments where I'm very thankful for parts of the Old Testament where, we see David. Yeah. And his frustration and questioning of God, but not questioning in a way of like, I don't think you're right. Just why are you doing this? And then even you go to the New Testament and Jesus is asking for him to do something different. Yep. But like then you quoted, just not my will, but yours be done. We need to land there. We can have all the frustration and the questioning and then the lack of understanding as long as we land on not my will, but yours be done, and stay open to that, because otherwise we're going to miss that next open door.
And the idea that we run into these closed doors that are painful doors, and somehow it's all okay, and we move immediately, okay, not my will, yours, Lord. Sometimes you don't get to that until you've been able to express to him your frustration and your hurt and how much you don't understand, and you get that all out and express that, and then I land on the not my will. But to immediately expect, we as Christians are supposed to say, oh, okay, not my will, yours, Lord. No, it does. Life just is more painful than that.
And he's aware that we're feeling those feelings and emotions anyway, so it doesn't do us any good to pretend. I'm loving it, loving it.
Not gonna let him know
Father.
how mad I am right now. You're like, he doesn't know.
Yeah. You talked about God stopping us from doing righteous things. I want to dive a little deeper into that because it's a confusing concept of God is stopping me from doing something that's righteous. Can you expand on that a little bit more from your
Paul,
message?
in the example that we're looking at, was trying to be obedient to God, was being obedient to God, was faithfully doing what he's supposed to do. He's preaching the gospel to Gentiles, and God basically says, not these Gentiles, those over there. So he's stopping him from preaching to people that need to hear the gospel.
Yeah.
These are people that need to get saved. And Paul sees that, and he has his passion for that, and he's ready to do that. It is a totally righteous God thing that he's trying to do, to go to Asia Minor, to go to Bithynia, to preach the gospel, because there's people that some of them may die before hearing the gospel if he's not able to get back there, or another preacher isn't going to get there. So he's doing a very righteous thing, and God says, no, this is not what I want you to do. Now, he wasn't putting a lid on his preaching, saying, nope, you're not supposed to preach anymore.
Sure.
What he is saying is, this is not the right time, this is not the right place, these are not the right people. Because God prepares hearts to hear what they're supposed to hear. And if they aren't at a point where they're ready to hear it, then he may tell us, no, don't even talk to them, because it's going to turn them away more than help them, because I don't have their hearts prepared yet, or they've not been willing to have their hearts prepared yet.
So they're about to go to Bithynia, and they're, I believe you said Paul was spirit sensitized.
Yes.
And so,
yes, I like
is
that
a phrase
term.
that I don't think I've heard before.
I kind of made it up.
I like it. If you can be desensitized, then you can be sensitized.
Yes,
we just don't ever use that term really. But what am I doing wrong if I miss that mess? Like I miss this door's closed, this door's open, you need to head that way. Am I doing something like? Where's my failure if I don't see the open door?
You mean just because I'm not aware?
Well, but maybe God hasn't opened it yet. But for me, right, I get a closed door, and I'm like, okay, then where's the open one? And if I don't see it, am I missing something?
No, because with Paul, he keeps getting closed doors. He does not see an open door. No open door comes until after the others have been solidly closed, that God says, don't go this way. It's not till after all of those things that the open door comes. So he could have gone at the edge of Asia Minor saying, okay, I'm supposed to go in here, gets the word no, okay, where? And he does not have an answer. God does not at that point tell him, this is where you're supposed to go. He is left wondering. So he chooses the next door. God does not send him to Bithynia. He moves on to Bithynia because God hasn't told him where to go yet. Yeah. And so he keeps going after doors that are not the right doors. And so he doesn't know yet what the plan is, and God will reveal it when it's the right time. But he's moving in the right direction. He's moving. And that was one of my emphasis in there. I hope that came across, is God is able to steer a moving ship much more than he can one that is sitting still in the water.
Well, that was my next question. You said Paul didn't stop and wait for the next step.
Right.
But we talk all the time about how like God has a next step for you, and there's a next step for you in your relationship with Jesus. How do I pursue that if I don't know what it is? So like for Paul, he just went over to Bithynia, and then he went here. But I'm not currently in Asia Minor trying to figure out where God wants me to preach the gospel. How do I know what my next step is?
He had an overall call to preach to the Gentiles. So that picture was clear for him.
And he's pursuing
and
that.
There's a huge amount of Gentiles out there. So he just keeps trying to do as much as God has told him, which is you're going to the Gentiles. And so he keeps moving in that direction. Same way for us is that when God gives us an overall picture, It may be an overall picture of I want you to share your faith. It may be an overall picture of I want you to be obedient to the Word of God. That, okay, I know this is a Christian life that he wants me to live, so I will live it wherever I'm at and try to keep doing that until he shows a specific. The call was to Gentiles. The specific, which had the closed doors, is here or here or here. But he was moving forward to accomplish that in every way that he could. Yeah. And then God was able to direct him and say, nope, not there. And so, again, these are not stop signs. The closed doors have an arrow saying, nope, go that way.
Yeah.
Keep on what you're doing. This just isn't the door you're going through. And so it's not invalidating the call of God on our lives or devaluating our Christian lives. It's you keep going and the door will open.
Yeah. He's never going to leave us with just absolutely no thought or direction of what we're doing. Like you were saying, like pursuing him and living out a life like Jesus.
That's what I'm looking at.
Right. Me too. Okay, you said closed doors always lead to an open door.
Yes.
How do we develop the patience that is required? Because sometimes it's going to follow what happened with Paul here, where he gets a closed door and he's just going and he gets this closed door, that closed door, and then the door opens up. Sometimes it's going to be really quick, but either way, there's patience required, more patience in certain circumstances than others, but it's certainly needed to have patience until that door opens up. How do I develop that spiritual patience in my relationship with him?
I'm not sure that I'm accurate on this. I think I'm right.
Love when a pastor starts with that.
Patience can only be learned by being in situations where you're impatient. You can't just say, I'm going to be patient and develop that. Now, some people by nature are more patient than others, just like any ability or any gift or fruit of the Spirit. But patience you learn by being in situations where you're not patient, where you just learn it the hard way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not something that I will decide I'm going to be patient. No, you learn patience because you've been forced to learn patience.
Right.
Because God puts you in these situations where you just have to trust him and you're not getting answers and you're not getting direction, and that's by going through those is the way that you learn patience. So I'm not sure if that makes a whole lot of sense, but looking at my life, I think that's the way it has worked.
Yeah, it's a learn by doing kind of activity. You can't really be patient if there's nothing that you're waiting on at all, which sounds great. I would love to not have to learn to be patient if anybody is offering.
Yeah, and they always say, don't pray for patience. Because
you'll be given the opportunity
you will be given an opportunity to have to exercise it. Yep.
One of the last things you said in your conclusion, you said, God has the perfect plan for your life. Don't get discouraged by closed doors. If I'm a person who was listening to this message this weekend and I've just had a really significant closed door, or maybe even it's been a little while since I had a closed door and I haven't seen the open door yet, and I want to believe that God has a perfect plan for my life, but my marriage is struggling because of our financial situation, or I'm worried that I might lose my house, or I just have a general lack of understanding about where I'm headed or what's next for me, or maybe I'm a younger person and I don't know what my big next step is after high school or something. What would you say to that person who I want to believe that God has a perfect plan for my life, and I know that I shouldn't get discouraged by closed doors, but I'm feeling really discouraged by closed doors, and it feels like God doesn't have any plan for me, like he forgot about me?
Wow. We've all been there.
For sure.
We've all had that experience. And all I can say is just keep doing what you know you're supposed to be doing. because I don't know that there is some great revelation that you can make happen, or that I can make happen, that is going to give me this confidence that God has this great plan. As I read his word, as I listen to those who have had experiences, as I look back in my own life and experiences, those things tell me, yes, God has a plan for my life. But to just decide that or figure that out on your own, I'm not sure that it is an easy thing to do. And you might go through some painful times. I think it was in Message last week that we talked about that area of frustration, or after you see his will, or after you know what you're supposed to do, or step through that door or whatever, or the door closes, there are those periods of frustration. And in those times is when we determine, can I trust in myself that I'm going to pull this off, or do I have no choice but to just trust God? I've got to trust in him because I can't do this.
Yeah, maybe surrounding ourselves with other more mature Christians as well. I mean, that's, we talk about community so much here at New Hope for a variety of different reasons, but that's a big one. I know that's been a thing for me in my life, where when I am feeling that discouragement or a lack of understanding about where is that open door going to come, and you maybe feel a little bit of distrust, and you hear these stories from people that are more mature in their faith that have been following the Lord forever about, I was where you were, and here's how God was faithful to me. I mean, that's why so many of these stories in the Bible are just proving God's faithfulness, and that's why we have other people in our lives as well who can prove God's faithfulness, and we see it in their life, and then we can trust, okay, I mean, if he had Pastor Mark's back, he's definitely going to have mine. So, yeah. Well, thank you, Pastor Mark. We're going to get to our discussion questions now. As always, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do that. You should see a little red button if you're watching on YouTube, kind of on the bottom right. And if it says subscribe, it means you're not subscribed. So go ahead and click that. Or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we'd love to have you subscribe, and then go into your phone and turn notifications on so you get notified when we have new videos go up. If you are an audio listener, we only have a few on Spotify. Do you know what Spotify is, Pastor Mark?
Yes,
I
actually do.
But we have a lot more on Apple Podcasts. If you are one of our audio listeners, I definitely recommend you go check out our YouTube channel one of these days, because not only do you get to see Pastor Mark's smiling face
see it behind these
during
mics.
during the podcast, but we've got all sorts of really great videos that are up there. Our worship videos go up every single week, and we've got another podcast with Pastor Leo called The Show with No Name, where we're finishing up a study in Romans, and then we're going to be starting a new study on the book of Judges, and we've got all our weekend services and all sorts of cool stuff. So check out our YouTube channel. The discussion questions, as always, will be in the video description or the podcast notes. First one for this week. Think back on this. What a fun start to this. Think back on closed doors in your life. Thanks, Pastor Mark. Which ones were a disappointment? All of them.
No, not always. There's some that I've thought,
goodness.
Good.
You know what? Honestly,
good. I thought God was leading this way, and I really didn't want to do that. Thank you, Lord.
I actually can think of one very specific one right now that I'm the same way. So that's fair. Okay, that's fair. Which ones were a disappointment? And then where has God led you that would not have happened if that door had not closed? Question 2. This is less of a question and more of a commandment from Pastor Mark. Recount the people in your life that were short-term but were a huge blessing. That's a cool thing to do. Question 3, has God closed doors on something that you were doing for him? And then the last one, what bad things in your life were avoided because God closed the door? Which that one, you might know, but you also might have no idea the things
a lot of those things we just don't know.
The things he saves us from when he closes a door like that. A difficult message, especially for those of us who, we might be right now going through a closed door moment, or for some of us, maybe it just brings back really difficult memories of another, a past closed door or whatever, but an important one. And obviously you didn't leave us on a sad note, so that's good, because like we said, God has that perfect plan for your life. And,
correct.
And those closed doors are designed to get us to the correct open door. So that's really good. Thank you for your teaching, Pastor Mark. Thanks to all of you for joining us. New episodes go live every single Monday, so come back next week for the next Grow Podcast episode, and make sure you're joining us on the weekend for Pastor Mark's weekend teaching. You can be in Williston, Tioga, online. You can be in Kalamazoo. But then you have to be at the online campus. It'd be really hard to be there and join us at the Williston campus. But wherever you are, we hope that you join us for our weekend worship and then come back next week for the Grow Podcast. Until then, we will see you next time.